From door to door. This is a true story, if you want to believe it. It's about two lovebirds, Jake and Diane. No, not Jack and Diane. Jake and Diane. These were two young lovers, but they had lots to do, because they had decent jobs. You see, Jack was a tradesman, and he had risen to a supervisor position in a successful construction company, while Diane was always working. She seemed to be able to just decide what she wanted to do and change on a whim. She would just up and follow a different career path, and she would always prove successful at whatever she chose to pursue. So they had been dating for about 2 years, and they were madly in love, and they enjoyed traveling together. Their favorite thing was hiking and camping, and especially did they love going to the Grand Canyon to admire the breathtaking views. So they had been there many times, and one day Diane had the idea to take a helicopter tour of the canyon. She had hoped that they could see it from a different perspective, so eagerly they both boarded the helicopter with a few other tourists and a pilot, and soon they were soaring over the landscape. Jake, he was sitting next to the window, holding Diane's hand. He looked at her and smiled. He could tell she was a bit nervous. He was feeling so lucky to have her in his life. She smiled back and leaned her head on his shoulder. They felt happy and peaceful, unaware of the sudden terror that was about to strike. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the helicopter started to shake violently. They looked out the window and saw smoke coming out of the engine. The pilot announced that they had a serious mechanical malfunction and they had to make an emergency landing. The helicopter began to descend rapidly, heading towards a narrow ledge. And on the ledge of the canyon, they crashed. Jake and Diane felt the surge of fear. They both held each other tightly, and they prayed that they would be able to survive this crash. The pilot managed to land the helicopter on the ledge, but it was unstable and tilted, and it seemed to have crashed into something on the ledge, something with metal poles and rope, most likely some type of barrier. At this point, the passengers screamed and panicked, trying to get out of the wreck. Jake and Diane followed them, but as they were about to exit, they realized there was a problem. The helicopter had shifted to the point now where the rope that was hooked to the metal pole on the ledge had moved so that a person could no longer fit through the doorway. The rope was preventing the helicopter from falling off the cliff, and the pole was jammed into the door in such a way that it was the little bit left that was holding the chopper to the ledge. Jake and Diane could tell that Jake was excited and had figured something out. She had no idea what he had figured out, but she watched excitedly as Jake quickly grabbed the rope. He tied it around Diane. He used the piece he had cut off and fashioned a harness of sorts. Now Jake took the knife and quickly cut the tangle of rope leading to the pole, releasing it, causing it to slide even quicker towards the edge. This also freed up the door, and she realized what he was doing. He said to her, "Listen to me, Diane. I love you more than anything in the world. You're my everything, and I'm going to save you. When the helicopter falls, I want you to hold on to the rope. Don't let go no matter what. The rope will hold you, and you will be safe. Do you understand?" Diane nodded. Tears started to stream down her face, for she now realized what his plan was, and she could not believe it. He was sacrificing himself for her. She wanted to protest. She wanted to beg him to come with her. She wanted to demand that he did leave her alone, but she knew it was too late. He had made his choice already. You see, he knew his chances of survival were slightly better than hers, but her chances were near zero. But if he worked fast, if he could only hold that door open for her one last time, then her survival would be an almost certainty. You see, Jake was a numbers guy, and while most men would be in sheer panic at this point, smart old Jakey boy had already concluded that the chances of both of their survival from this situation was less than 10%, hers being less than his. And he could see as clear as Diane's beautiful features that if anyone survived, it would almost certainly be him. But he could change all of that with one simple act of love. All he had to do was hold that door open for her, open for the one he loved. He had done this so many times before. It was something he loved to do, and he remembered it well, for it was how they first met. He knew what his plan would do to his own chances of survival, but this is something he most certainly would keep to himself. He knew this would haunt her for the rest of his life. So, though he was busy working at his busy task, so busy, his number one concern was still for the one he loved. Saving her was easy for him, but making her understand that he was happy to do this would be much harder. But she would understand. Not today, but she would understand. She would eventually remember the joy on his face. She said, "I love you so much." He replied, "I am so happy I found my soulmate. What more could I have asked for in this life? Don't be sad. Don't be afraid." He kissed her and said, "I love you. I love you more than life itself. You're my reason for living, and I'm doing this because I want you to live. I want you to be happy. I want you to remember me. Please don't forget me. That's all I ask from you." He kissed her again, and then he guided her out the door. He watched her as he fell. He felt the wind in his face. He could see the rope fastened tight around Diane's waist, the harness he had made fastened secure. She watched the helicopter crashing towards the ground, exploding. She saw the fire and the smoke. He saw the sky. He saw Diane hanging from the rope, alive. He smiled and closed his eyes. He felt a peace and a pain. He felt a love and a loss. He felt a life and a death. He was gone, but he would never be forgotten.